We are back to another episode of our Let's Talk Swimming, and we talk about swimming and some things about it. Um, I have a topic for you today. It has been on social media before beneath coaches and other swimmers, and I was asked several times how to train or how to train properly. I also made a YouTube with someone else, like with Alex from Scale Swimming, about it. And I want to hear your take on it because you train mainly like these pros or future pros or already pros or swimmers. And what I mean with that, how to train when you are a sprinter, how you to train when you're a middle distance swimmer, and how to train when you're a long distance swimmer. So how would your swim session look like? And hear me out though I hand you over the staff to talk. Um, why I'm saying this. So before it was always when I was young, I was always taught, you need to do swim no matter what, if you're a sprinter or not. And now it has moved to the sprinters, which only do maybe 3 kilometers or even less, and sit in the gym all the time. Flora Manadu is one of them, and they never really train a lot anymore. What is your take on that topic?
So, first of all, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Happy New Year in person.
Oh yeah, Happy New Year. Oh, I forgot that about. Happy New Year to you too. All the best for 2024.
Yes, and all the listeners, of course, also. And yes, that's a topic that is it's very complex. And you mentioned that I have a swim team with all sorts of swimmers. I have sprinters, I have middle distance guys, IMers, breaststrokers, and long distance freestylers, all the way to the world record holder in the English Channel with Monsieur Waschburger. And I wish I could say that I'm a great coach for everybody, but I'm most certainly not, because it's highly unrealistic for one coach to assume that you can take care of an entire group of 20, 25 people with pure sprinters, 100-meter sprinters, breaststrokers, IMers, open water guys, and a distance group. Somebody's going to fall short. It's literally impossible. That's why the colleges in the United States have a head coach and they have 3 to 4 assistant coaches, because you need help. Usually it's always a struggle to time everybody, and everybody wants to get the attention. And I'm writing right now currently at least 3 different training plans, and I think that's the bare minimum that you have to write, because you have a sprint group, a mid distance group, and a distance group.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 4 training plans, and yeah, it's a struggle, but it's going okay. Like I said, not nearly on the level that I would like to, but I think for the options that I have, I'm doing pretty good. And to your question, specifically the sprinters, I think you have to differentiate quite a bit if you want to be a 50-meter freestyler or a 100-meter freestyler.
Yeah.
If I had a guy or a girl who is just doing the 50, I am totally fine with doing 3K per session and spending a lot of time in a weight room. I think that's by far the best approach. However, if you want to swim there and back, you're in trouble. If you only do 3K, you are in trouble, because 100-meter can get pretty long. And according to research, even with 100 freestyle, 60%, maybe even 70%, something in between there, of your performance in 100 freestyle is already aerobically based. And so you need a base for that. So I think if you want to win the Olympics in the 100 freestyle, or if you want to be very successful internationally in 100 freestyle, you have to put in some work. Yeah. 3K is not going to cut it. I would be willing to bet a lot that the person who wins the Olympics in Paris is not doing 3K per practice in 100 for the 100 freestyle. So that's my short take on it.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one, because we have someone else in our midst, which so sort of what I hear and what I read about him, he abandoned all this knowledge, but actually he only swims 50 meter nowadays. He was good in 100 meters. Maybe know who I'm talking about. It's Cam McAvoy, and he completely abandoned the whole thing. Though we need to say, as I said, he swims a 74 on 100 meter. He did swim a 74 that about, what was it, 5-10 years ago, or even, I don't know, something like that. And now he only swims 50 meters. So I guess he's just done what you just say. He does the 50 meter, but I doubt if he can do the 100 meter as fast, like if he wants to come back. Because he was the one who abandoned, like what I hear, abandoned the whole theory about training more in the water. He does only calisthenics. He swims very little in the water, a lot of all outs, and I don't know. I doubt even that he does 3 kilometers. I doubt that. But again, and we have another friend which we have from Germany. He's my age, 37 years old, and swims at 22 as well. So, or 22, yes, the 22, Stefano, and he does a lot of sprints as well. But I would argue there, I don't know if you're with me, I would argue there when they were younger, all of them did a lot more. They have a good base, and they have like the big base. They have, until they were maybe 12, 13, 14 years old, they've done it all. They have trained 5K, 10K sessions. I would argue. I don't know what your take is on that one.
Well, my take on Ste is that Ste is the short version of Stefano. I know him really well. We trained together in Frankfurt for quite a while when we were really young.
Yeah.
No, I'm a bit older than he is. Is he 87 or 86? I don't remember.
86.
86. So yeah, I'm 4 years older, but then we know each other pretty well. Same club team growing up. And he used to be a 200 freestyler in all 200 strokes, so he has the background. And Cam McAvoy, I'm a great fan of what Brett Hawke is doing with his sprint revolution. I only see it on Instagram every now and then. But I think if you want to do the 50, there's no other approach. There's no point in doing yardage. It doesn't make any sense. You need to be very explosive. You dive in, you hold your breath, you don't breathe at all, you sprint to the other side. And I agree. And I used to do this back in the day also. A lot of people don't know, but I had my first job in the south of Munich, very small club team. I actually had some pretty good sprinters. My girls won the 4x100 freestyle in Germany, the relay, and I had a very young swimmer who was 15 back in the day. Her name was Helen, and she was third in the 50 freestyle behind Britta Steffen and Dorothea Brandt in Germany. And we had a pure sprint group. We were doing boxing and dry lands. We were doing sprints. Everything was timed pull-ups, and also very, very little yardage. And I think it makes sense if you think about what the body needs to be able to do. Then it makes sense. If you imagine you have a glass which is full of energy, that's your energy for the day. This phrase is different. That's your energy for the training. Then you want to use whatever's in the glass with as much sense as possible, right?
Yeah.
As a sprinter who's only doing 50, it would make total sense to use up the entire energy to improve your start, your underwaters, and sprinting. There's no point in doing, let's go to an extreme to do 10 times 400 freestyle for an aerobic base. For what?
Yeah.
It's a waste of time and energy.
Yeah.
So I really agree with that. And then again, for the 100, Cam McAvoy would certainly be able to swim a good 100, but I don't think he would be competitive to beat the Kyle Chalmers, for example.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm sure he knows that, and he's not going to try.
No, that's actually a good point about it. That's a really good point about it, because it always sounds so easy, but especially we forget that we have a lot of good trainings, or like a lot of good, like we have a really good base, like we swimmers, like we have a really good base, and from that we can evolve to everything basically. And we don't only have that in like we have a good base in distance, but we also have a good like a variety of strokes we can swim, drills we can do. We can, all of us, like I've never seen a good swimmer who could not swim there is always excuses or exceptions to it, but I've never seen a swimmer who couldn't swim other strokes fast neither. Like I've never. Usually, when you could swim freestyle, you could also swim butterfly, and you could swim backstroke somehow, or you could swim you can breaststroke, then you could in a medley, or you could always do all of the strokes in the end. I mean, that brings me actually to another question, just maybe to float it in. So we had the sprint, and we go back to middle distance and long distance a bit later. But how would you do in a session? Would you swim only freestyle, or would you do it all, or how? What is your take on that? I mean, because that is also something which people ask me a lot.
It depends a lot on my training group. For example, the open water swimmers, they have quite a lot of sessions where they only do freestyle.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of backstroke in the beginning with warm up, maybe 75 freestyle, 25 backstroke for a few 400s or something like that. But the majority freestyle. Everybody else is mixing it up quite a bit. Like I usually use backstroke sets when I feel like they get too tired in freestyle, just to mix up the muscle groups that are involved in swimming. You can still work even on lactate if you wanted to, but it's a different different muscular stress because you're using this different groups. And then my IM group is obviously doing all sorts of stuff. And then again, my sprinters, my sprint freestylers, they are very freestyle heavy also.
Mm-hmm.
Some butterfly, some do backstroke every now and then, but very freestyle heavy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, no. It's a good point. It's a good point. As I said, because I get asked a lot, would you just swim freestyle? And nowadays, today, I when I do my training for my open water and triathlon or Ironman stuff, I predominantly do freestyle. Right? I don't do maybe a bit of medley sprints, butterfly sprints, or every now and then, to loosen up, I do maybe a 10 times 100-meter medley swim or something like that, just to get loose and get to the feeling of something else. I think back in the days I would swim all of it. Maybe not so much backstroke, but that was my weakest stroke anyway. But everyone has that one stroke because where he's not that great, but he can still swim fast. I mean, or some people are like Leo Marshall, who can swim it all, right? But that's a different story, I guess. So I guess for the sprinter, I think it's a good point that we say, not only 3K and like, it depends on what you want actually. And I guess for the middle distance and long distance, the same. But there I would go more. There is a lot of grinding behind it, as we had in one of our other talks we had. There is a lot more grinding in it, I think. And also knowing what, for example, for middle distance, I think is very much. I believe, maybe you can correct me there, middle distance has a lot with the long distance to do. They are very close to it. I believe the long distance needs to know that he's able to endure a certain amount of time and needs to have done that before, like have an exercise. Let's say if you want to do a 5K race, at some point in your life you needed to have done 5Ks in your life, that you know how it feels, or maybe you've done a bit longer, that you have the knowledge about it. Maybe also in one go, I would argue, at some point you would have needed to do that. Middle distance women, I don't think they need to do necessarily 400 freestyle every day in their training. I think they will do mid 50s and 100s, but that you could argue there. But how would you coach that, or how would you do that?
Which ones are you talking about now?
Middle distance, I guess. Middle distance. I would say. So my argument is middle distance is more going into the long distance, but I don't think it's more. It's not. I don't think it's a mix of short and long. I would say it's more on the long side. I think maybe, if that makes sense.
I agree. I think a lot of people underestimate quite a bit how much aerobic base and how much general workload you need to swim a strong 200 freestyle long course.
Yeah.
Because it is a very, very tricky event. And if you think about how long the event is, it's around, let's say, for the sake of the argument, 1 minute and 45 seconds. If you look at the track athletes, for example, and if you look what an 800-meter runner looks like compared to a 400-meter runner, they look like two completely different people. The 800-meter runner is they really start to get somewhat skinny. They're not super skinny yet, but they look, in my opinion, quite a lot different than a 200 and 400 meter runner. And I think in swimming it's the same. You get some of the guys that come from a very fast 100, but usually the guys can swim all the way to the 400. Like even like somebody like Peter van den Hogenband at the junior European level, he was still very good at the 400 freestyle also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so in general, I think you need to do, it's very tricky. You need a very good aerobic base, but at the same time you need to have easy speed.
Yeah.
So it's tough, and there are different ways to approach it. Some people believe a lot in high intensity and lactate work, and others believe a lot more in an aerobic base. I'm more in the second category, but yeah, there are many different approaches, and they all meet in the middle. Like, for example, a guy like Lukas Mertens in Magdeburg, he certainly trains, I would assume, significantly different than most of the other 200 meter freestylers in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And right now he's the fastest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think a lot of people nowadays, they shy away from the grind.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's all bad. I mean, there are very, very good coaches out there who are very creative. But I don't know. The good old method with getting after it is still valid, in my opinion.
I would agree. Listen, I changed. I had two schools, which I also said in other talks I had, also with Abby Fish from the US, and I had two. When I was younger, I was very much driven by the method by Gennady Turetsky, which was influenced, like my coach was influenced because they were good friends, and there was really very much influenced by quality over quantity, and you would do high intensity interval sets, and you wouldn't do sessions above 5 kilometers. You wouldn't do that. And later on, I was challenged to go towards the volume more, and I was myself going towards the volume more, and I think there, for me, it changed a bit. I don't know how it would have turned out if I would have changed it all early on or earlier, going away from the quality over quantity, more into the grinding part, and doing like 5, 7.5, 10K sessions, and look less on the quality, or I don't know. I saw both have a valid point. I do think I prefer also the aerobic one, or the aerobic type I would prefer as well. And nowadays I would also teach that when it comes to, if you want to be a 400 meter freestyler, 15, or even go beyond that. I think now actually it comes up another question which I have for you. What do you think would nowadays you see a lot of older people or elderly, like former pros, they have done their time, like what's his name, Roland Schoeman, even Brett Hawke tries to get fit and or like get fast again, and so they all go into sprinting. Even youngsters or young swimmers, when they were, for example, Ian Thorpe as a youngster would do 400 meter, 1500 meter, 800 meter, and now, by the end of his journey, he was on 100 meter freestyle. Would you think, is it possible when you're older to swim a 400 meter freestyle as fast as when you were younger, and even faster, and going and competing against the best ones? Do you think it's possible or not at all?
Well, I don't really like to say that something is impossible.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's tough.
Because it's this question which looms when we talk about it, and we see a lot of all of them going to sprinting. But I have not seen, I don't know if you know of an example, but I have not seen anyone to being in their 30s or even going towards 40s, like Roland Skuman, and be good. He was always a sprinter, to be honest. But like another one who would go and do a 400 meter, let's say all out 3:45 or 3:46 or something. I haven't seen that.
I think the problem with swimming is that the training that's required for a fast 400 freestyle or 800 or 1500 is so incredibly intense that it's very hard for a 40-year-old to handle that still, to be competitive. And then if you factor in that you've been out for a few years, that makes it even more challenging. Therefore, I don't know, it would be very, 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 very hard. But there's one, what was her name? A Hungarian swimmer. I don't think she was 30, but she had already retired. She was a very good middle distance and distance freestyler.
Yeah.
And then she came back. Let me see the name. I don't want to mess this up.
Don't worry.
10K.
No, because it's a question, because it's something which is I don't know, when we talk about it, when I talk about training and stuff like that, that usually comes up to me and comes to me because I see a lot of people, even long distance swimmers or middle distance swimmers, who go now and do sprinting, and they're getting quite fast. Even Stefano, when you look at it, he used to do 200 meters. He did middle distance, not sprinting. He was, I guess, back then also fast in sprinting, but he would do middle distance, and now I don't know. I want to
get back to the thought real quick. Her name is Eva Ristov.
Eva Ristov. Oh yeah, true.
Yes, and she was let me see how old she is. She was a pool swimmer.
Yeah.
And she was always second, third in Europe. She won everything.
Mm-hmm.
But then in the international, she didn't, and then she came back and said, okay, I'm going to build myself back up and I'm going to do open water. And she ended up winning. Eva Ristov. I'm going to butcher that name completely. I'm going to type it in there. Eva Ristov. Let's see.
No, it rings a bell. Eva Ristov. It rings a bell. But where did it ring a bell? Maybe, or did she have some European records which were standing for a long time?
1985, she was born. She was 27 when she won. When she came back, she was out probably for a couple years.
Yeah.
And then started back up. And I remember hearing about that she started very slow for the first half year, only doing 2 to 3K per practice. And then she built it up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It took her, I think, from making the comeback to becoming an Olympic champion, maybe 2 years, 2.5 years, and then she was back.
Jeez.
So it's possible. I mean, she took the hardest or the longest event. Maybe the training is not quite as intense, and she's 27 and not 35. But there's an example for somebody who was out, came back and did it in a very long distance event.
Yeah, true. I mean, there is another one. Kirsty Coventry was around for a very long time, and even she had her baby or like her break, which she has in the meantime, and she came back and won medals. Kirsty Coventry's one, which rings a bell. She was also one of these long-lasting or like on and off people, I think. And there you must say she did well. I mean, international, national level. I mean, it was really good there as well. And to the long one, so sprinting we have it. It depends on what you want, either 50 or 100. It depends there on the size. We had the middle distance swimmer, needs a lot of aerobic base, and again, as I would argue with you, the grinding part and eating kilometers will be your best friend, I believe. Technique, yes, still as well, and you need to train the other things as well. But I guess if you would have a percentage, I would argue it's 80-20. If, technique, sprinting versus grinding and long distance training. I don't know if it's 80-20, maybe 75-25, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure if I'm necessarily for the list for the audience. I don't think I would, like, we're not talking about 100 kilometers a week now for.
No.
I would say they can do in very high volume weeks maybe 80.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say a normal week maybe 60, 65, sometimes 70, which is already a lot.
For long
And then
distance.
the difference, for middle distance.
For middle distance,
For
yeah.
middle distance. Yeah, but I think a lot of coaches these days, they go like 5 to 6K per training session.
Yeah.
And they do mainly like fast, suited up 50s, broken 50s, and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I like just more tougher, longer sets for these people. But that's my approach. That's whatever. A lot of things work.
How would a set look like?
A middle distance set?
Yeah, middle distance set.
Tons of different ones. I mean, it depends what you want. Like usually I would split it up. For middle distance guy, I would do 2 aerobic interval sets per week, 1 intense where we do lactate threshold. And then I would put, depending on what kind of a guy is, I would probably put him in the distance group Monday morning. So there he would swim, or she would swim quite a lot, maybe 8K.
Yeah.
But then what's a typical set? I don't know. Like let's say, let's look at the training plan from this week. Let's see what they have so far.
That's a good one. Real life, guys. Real life.
Let's see what they did today. I mean, today, for example, right now I'm in a cycle where I do week number 1, it's volume. Week number 2 is intensity. Week number 3 is recovery.
Yeah.
And so this week we are in a volume phase, and the main set today was 2 rounds of 1500 pull at 20 minutes, 60%.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I don't know, lactate 2 to 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did 1500s, two times interval 120, 1 time 110, 1 time 125, 1 time 105. So it's a little bit of mix of speed, but fairly fast swimming, but quite a lot of volume. I mean, it's a 6 set. And that is very extreme.
Mm-hmm.
That's certainly not something that you should be doing all the time, but you have to keep in mind that these are not necessarily 200 freestylers, but also 400 freestylers.
Yeah.
And some 800 freestyles, so then it puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
But these guys the person that I have in mind for this set is also a very good 200 freestyler. It's probably right now his strongest race. 200 and 400 is probably equally strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yesterday, another session. Yesterday we did 4 rounds, 400 pull on 5 minutes. Again, the idea is that they cannot go easy. They have to push a little bit. Then 2 times 100 swim on 115. Same thing. Still have to make interval, keep a pretty high pace. And then 4 times 50, 3 times at 400 meter pace on 45 seconds and 1 times easy on 1 minute.
Okay.
Again, long set, tough set, but like I said, this is
not easy. Not easy. Hey.
No, this is a rough time of the year. I mean, people are gonna go crazy when I say this, but the week prior we did 150 times 100 meters on 120, holding best average. So it's the winter time. The winter time is always tough here.
I know that. I did it a week before 120 times 100 go every 130, and it was not easy. And then the next week I did 100 times 100. When I saw you, I also said, nah, now they did 30 more. Shall I go also and do? But I did 100 times 100 meters. But yeah, it's not an easy one. I mean, and they did well.
Right now it's rough.
Yeah, get it.
But it's the second cycle, the second macro. Is that an English word? Macro cycle? Whatever. The second seasonal cycle. And the first one I usually use to get back into the season, swim a decent short course race and then a solid long course race. Then the second cycle is usually a big building cycle. And then the third cycle, hopefully some people qualified internationally. And then this is the one where we back off a little bit of the yardage and then add a lot of intensity. But I think the winter time is where you should be laying the aerobic foundation. Yeah. And that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah. So now the last one, long distance. So I guess we had the volumes. It's talked about 60 kilometers. I guess for the long distance we go towards 80 or even more sometimes. Tom Dolan would always say above 120 kilometers during the week, but not everyone is Tom Dolan. Here, what would you say? Grinding in general.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the athlete. Like, for example, if I had a guy like Grant Hackett, who's 2 meters tall and weighs 105 kilos or whatever, let's call it 100 kilos. It's very tough to put a guy like that through a 100-kilometer week.
Yeah,
there's just so much body mass that needs to be recovered in between sessions that it's very, very hard for these guys to to be able to handle a volume like that. I think with these kind of guys, it makes a lot more sense to maybe cap out at 70, 75, so they can still hold the quality. But then once you have guys like Florian Belbrock or Olli Clement, I coached a guy for 2 years, people that weigh maybe 70 kilos, or in Olli's case, 60 kilos. And I mean, you can go crazy with these guys. They can recover fine. They barely have any muscle on them.
Yeah.
But you still need to keep an eye on the quality. Once the quality drops significantly, you need to back off, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But it's probably a question for Bernd Berghahn, if you want to ask him.
No. Well, listen, you have the world record holder on the English channel in your midst. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking you, and this is mainly something which a lot of people want to do, an English channel, and this guy can swim he's also tall, and he's also, I mean, he's not 2 meters, but almost, I guess, and he does a lot of volume as well.
189.
189,
yeah. And I mean, people are probably surprised that we didn't even do that much, because he's in his mid-30s, and he has been doing long distance and open water swimming for so long that I think his base is already there.
Yeah.
And with a guy in his mid-30s, I think you need to be very careful to not break the guy. And so we did one really long swim per month, where we went all the way up to 30K in one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And an average week was probably 80K. That was a standard week. And every now and then he would always tell me that it's time for a recovery week. That came from him. So it was a communication between him and I. And he said, well, I'm starting to get tired. I need to do an easy week. And then we did an easy week, and an easy week was like 70. So just not that much less, but 70K.
Well, yeah, also you took the intensity out, so it would be a lot less intense, I guess, in this week. But I guess this is very interesting, also for people to listen. But also, when you get older, back in the days when I was young, I didn't know that much, and now I know much more. Also, I know when I need to take it easy a bit or something like that. Even I, who usually doesn't listen to his body so well, or sometimes misjudges his own abilities and runs a marathon, a half marathon before his Ironman race. But even I need to be I don't know, mindful of rest time, I think, and even the older you get, I guess. But it's also something which plays now into the other argument where we say when you're older, it's very hard for you to go for a 200 meter and for a 400 meter freestyle fast or whatever, butterfly or something, and do maybe on a world record level or world championship level. I guess it has something to do with that as well, because you would need to have a lot more recovery time to get your body to that level of expertise, I wanted to say, or like performance level, and this, I guess, is simply not possible. I think it has something also to do with that. I don't know, maybe. You also saw with Michael Phelps, look, at his last Olympic Games were not as undefeated as the other ones were, like his titles. There were close calls. There were like some other people had to jump in. I don't know, maybe it was also his age, I guess.
I think he was really good on the last one. The one before, he was a little bit. In 2012, he wasn't as dominant, but 2016 was pretty solid.
Yeah, true. Maybe I'm have it wrong in my head. When was the close?
He retired. He also retired. That's another example. He retired for, I think, 1.5 years, and then he came back for the 2016 games, and I think he did really, really well, actually.
True. You're right. But he was in mid 20s, huh? For 16. Or end of 20s.
Michael Phelps was born in 1985.
85.
So he was also 31 there.
Yeah, maybe with him it was a bit different. For him, it was maybe he was too tired, or his body was tired at the end, and then he needed this break. This retirement break, and then came back for that. I don't know, maybe, but 31, yeah, true. Well, we also know, but again, he also went to the shorter distances, I guess.
He went to the shorter distances, and let's not forget we're talking about Michael Phelps. He is the greatest of all time, and I would argue not just in swimming, but in any sports that has ever been played. I know I get a lot of flack for that when you talk to an American football fan and they mention Tom Brady and whatever, but I think Michael Phelps is by quite a long shot the greatest athlete that ever walked the face of the earth, in my opinion. Of course, I'm biased. I'm a swimmer, but to win 23 Olympic medals, and I don't know how many of them were golden, it's actually insane. To win 4 Olympics in a row in the 400 IM. I don't think we're going to ever see this again, to be honest. I just don't see that ever somebody doing that again.
Again, the only one who can beat it at the moment, who has the ability to do it, but I don't know if he has so much in him, is Leo Marchand. The only one who is as how can I say it, as evenly distributed in his abilities when it comes to the styles, and as much of an athlete like him. But I don't know if he will be lost for 4 Olympic Games in a row. I don't know.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. I mean, I would argue he's probably the best swimmer in the world right now.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, he doesn't have an Olympic medal yet, right? His breakthrough came within the last years.
Yes, exactly.
So he has quite some room to make up. I mean, the next 4 Olympics, he has to average 6 medals per Olympic Games for the next 12 years.
Yeah, true.
So I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's tough.
Okay, from the abilities and from the coach who is behind him, he's the only worthy swimmer who could beat that. The only at the moment, because everyone else is somehow specialized. You know, he's the only one who can swim it all and can be as fast in all. I mean, he swims breaststroke. No, breaststroke is he good at, but his backstroke, his butterfly, he does freestyle. I mean,
but he has a disadvantage. He's from France, and France is not as strong in the relays as the United States.
Oh, so yeah, okay. I thought there'd be else.
Phelps got a few gold medals by swimming the relays, and I mean, he was usually the strongest swimmer in the relays. Don't get the wrong message that he was handed medals because he was a relay swimmer. He was the one who made the relays actually win. But nevertheless, I don't know, the French, they're good, and I'm not saying they cannot win an Olympic medal in a relay or whatever, but it's not the United States.
True. It is
so not. It's tricky, but he's amazing. Obviously, he has the same coach, and those are just incredible athletes. So
yeah. Well, he has an amazing coach, and that is. And on the other hand, we talk about. I mean, yes, he will. I guess from the medals he might not make it. But from the performance, or from that he could win a 400 meter medley 4 years in a row, or like something like that, from that point of view, because he will swim the same races as Phelps did, and he could potentially do the same races. He might not win the relays, but he will still swim it. You know, he will still swim preliminary and finals and all that for the volume, I guess. And I think there is the equality, I guess. I don't know, maybe. But let's conclude it with that. We are both super excited for the Olympic Games, and we want to see. And I'm cheering for Leo Marchand to actually get this title finally, and actually prove him that he's really at the moment the best swimmer which is out there. Thank you very much. So we had sprinting, middle distance and long distance. We dove into that. We said also about, like we said, that sprinter might need not as much grinding as before. Again, for all styles, I believe there needs to be a good base. I guess we agree on that. Either in your youth or maybe later on, that you need to get it somehow. You need to be comfortable with a lot of exercising to do. It doesn't matter whether you're a sprinter or a long distance swimmer. You need to know what you want. And according to that, you need to adjust, I guess. And then the other thing is, it is really that if freestyle is your goal to be good at, you might predominantly swim freestyle or butterfly or breaststroke or medley or whatever. Just to loosen up, you would do other strokes, I guess. Would you agree to that, I guess?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
So thanks very much for that call, and to another time.
Yeah, sounds good. One thing, my new homepage is finally up.
That's definitive.
It's www.swimmazinguniversity.com. You can even sign up for a free week of training. And there's also a Freestyle 101, I named it, course involved where I'm talking about freestyle swimming a little bit. So check it out.
Sounds good. We will link it in the comments, and that everyone can go there to that page. And also, before I forget, we're gonna renew our training camp, right? Is that so?
Yes.
We're gonna do it again in Saarbrücken. We will give more details as soon as possible, and it's gonna be again you and me at the sideline of a pool, teaching all about swimming, what we know.
Yes, I would say you should not miss that. The feedback that we got about our coaching was very, very, very good. We had some points where we can improve with the organization, but we will check that in the next time. It was the very first run, so we have to smoothen some things out, but we will do that, and then we are left with good organization and great training. So you shouldn't miss that. That was a very good one.
Sounds like a plan. So did you listen about that? We will inform you as soon as possible. So
yes.
With that, like, follow, share, and like our channels on Instagram, on YouTube, wherever we are. We have more talks about like this on our channels, and until next time.
Yes, and I promise I will start YouTube very, very soon. I've been silent for years, but I'm almost back. Almost back. Next week we're getting started.
Good to hear.
Good to hear. Okay, thanks for having me, Markus, and all the best.
Thank you. All the best. Thank you so much. Cheers.